In Japan, Ninja Master Hawkeye appeared a bit after Lightning Fast Zidane, quickly creating comparisons as both units were strong dagger damage dealers with slightly similar limit bursts. However, Hawkeye quickly cemented himself with one specific quality: full body type. I mean a true brave shift, yeah. Hawkeye's Trustmaster reward is close with high attack. It also has a passive Demon Killer, which is niche, but important when called for. When equipped onto Hawkeye, it gives him even more attack. His Super Trustmaster reward is a materia that boosts attack by 80% and limit burst damage by 75%. This is easily one of the best offensive materials in the game for general use, tied only with Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora's Super Trustmaster reward and strength. If you have that already, you can stack the two materials on one unit, just to give them a tremendous boost in power, limits permitting. Onto his active abilities. Hawkeye's abilities deal physical damage that changes with Absolute Mirror of Equity. First, he has Steal, a tremendous ability as it lets you provoke grants a provoke buff. Shadow Slash deals damage and fills Hawkeye's limit burst gauge with each use, and raises his attack by 230%. Fairy Walnut can be used 3 times per battle, granting one ally 600 MP. Throw is a valuable ability that lets you throw Lapis at— oh wait, you already did. True Thunder Technique inflicts a 120% lightning imperil, and deals lightning damage that gets stronger with each use. True Dirt Diversion is a weaker version with Earth. True Water Diversion is the same thing but with water. True Fire Diversion is the same thing but fire. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, he gains additional attack and equipment attack when dual wielding. He deals increased damage to beasts, has a strong boost to his limit burst damage, a decent limit burst regen, and quite a good deal of evasion. His normal attack has been changed to Chain of Bolting Strike, use the best ability Steal, and fills his limit burst gauge by a small amount. He's great at gil farming, which, I mean, personally, for having played this game over the good proportion of a millennia, I don't need it, but maybe you might? When given a short sword, he gets a massive 200% damage buff against beast enemies. At EX plus 2, he gets an instant limit burst. At EX plus 3, he gets 500 attack. Let's look at his limit burst. It boosts his limit burst damage by 150%, then deals damage, and inflicts a 25% short sword imperil. Time to change forms. Ninja Master Hawkeye has a true brave shift, which has no limitations whatsoever. Onto his active abilities. Thankfully, he keeps the best abilities Steal and Provoke, but he loses out on Throw, which drops his viability by 100 points. However, he does have access to True Dark Rain, who deals physical dark damage that chains with Absolute Mirror of Equity and gets stronger with each use, and inflicts a 130% Dark Imperil. True Needle Shower inflicts a 80% full break, hacks some status ailments that won't work, and chains with Bolting Strike. Poison Cloud deals dark damage that chains with Chaos Wave Awaken, and Poison— okay. But interestingly, the damage type of this ability isn't exactly considered physical. It still scales off his attack, but this gives him another angle to strike with. Fire Cloud is a stronger fire version without the poison. True Weapon Smack deals a single strong hit and inflicts a 90% defense break. Passives. Everything's the same, except for the one all the way down here. Now, when holding a short sword, he gets a large Reaper Killer buff. However, it must be noted that his original Beast Killer hasn't changed, so you have to keep in mind that he'll need additional equipment if you want to hit the cap for either killer buff. Onto his Limit Burst. It boosts his limit burst damage by 150%, then deals damage that gets stronger with each use, and you can't forget about the nifty short sword imperil. Now let's rank Rave abilities. Raising his abilities just raises their damage, not their effects, so I generally prioritize the one you use most often. If it were me, then that would be Shadow Slash, True Dark Rain, and True Thunder Technique. As Hawkeye's Brave Shift's limit burst is the type that gets stronger with each use, using another ability that raises its own strength with consecutive stacks will wipe your progress, making it incredibly counterintuitive. So let's make his damage rotation. I'll assume his limit burst is at max level. On turn 1, activate his Brave Shift. You're going to want to triple cast Shadow Slash. On turn 2, do that again. Thanks to the ability's effect that fills his limit burst gauge, and Hawkeye's own passive limit burst regen, he should have his limit burst ready to go now, so go ahead and let that loose. And then you repeat the rotation from here. Feel free to include True Weapon Smack on turns with high amounts of limit burst crystals. It's a single hit attack, but it also inflicts a 90% defense break. So, EX2. At EX plus 2, Hawkeye gets an instant limit burst. This is great, since its limit burst gets stronger with each use, and it's nice to get it to max strength faster. At EX plus 3, he gets 500 attack. This is 500 attack, which is great, though with the heavy cost you really have to think about it first. So how good is Ninja Master Hawkeye? As a damage dealer, the man is, well, at EX +1, he feels like he was released around lightning fast to dawn. In short, yes, your Full Moon Carton and Lara Croft are still stronger. His EX Awakenings definitely help, but even with them he won't surpass more recent units at equal levels. It doesn't help that his kit can shoot itself in the foot. With so many damage stacking abilities, Hawkeye is forced to stick with one of them at the risk of losing all the progress made in another. Luckily, he has a lot of elemental variety, and you're more often to just use one element and stick with it throughout a single team anyways. However, where things get unfortunate is with his Brave Shift's Limit Burst. It's by far his strongest option, but it also happens to be non-elemental and retains the consecutive shtick. The latter part means that you'll likely stick with it and refrain from using another ability in his moveset, and the initial part means that it would likely imbue for even more damage. However, despite his variety, Hawkeye doesn't have an imbue for his Limit Burst, meaning you'll have to get it from someone else. Even so, his 90% defense break is as valuable as ever, and perhaps quite notably, Hawkeye is one of the few characters that has the 90% defense break on a cooldown, rather than on an ability with limited amounts of use. Granted, the ability's cooldown exceeds the effect's duration by a few turns, though if 2 turns without a 90% defense break is that detrimental to you, you could always bring a unit that could reduce that cooldown to resolve that issue. Nevertheless, Hawkeye is a strong character that's unfortunately outpowered on his release, despite having a useful kit with a number of available options. Still, it's to his credit that he can still see strong use, perhaps as an evasion provoke tank with breaks and elemental variety, but it's ultimately up to you. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, then leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to get Hawkeye. Personally, I've already got some 90% defense breaks up my sleeve, and after Lara Croft played such a large role in the last Clash of Wills, I'm in no rush to replace her. Also, I don't have the Lapis, so